Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stab Judgments. This is Randy on a rainy, cold, slow, dreary Monday morning. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I had a long weekend. Just took me a little bit extra time to get myself going this morning. Um, Listen, I am here, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the kind of change to the draft scenarios in how free agency dictated everything, or how free agency went, I guess, and how that's going to dictate the draft for the Patriots. Because obviously, free agency is where you fill your needs first, right? Um, you get out there and you like to create a scenario where you're not coming into the draft with screaming, glaring needs and holes on your roster. Um, and I think when we talk about the Patriots, that's what happened here. Okay. The Patriots had, I believe, pretty excellent free agency. Um, I think it's kind of hard to argue, to be honest. They went ahead and they brought in the top wide receiver in free agency. I mean, Alec Pierce never really hit free agency. Um, they brought in the top guard in free agency. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker is pretty much. Right, I don't think anybody's arguing that he was the best guard available in free agency. Certainly, talent wise, if you're assuming health. And then they went ahead and they brought in Draymond Jones, who's a strong pass rusher, strong edge presence, who replaces Caleb Von Chason, gives them a little bit more of what they want in that role. A slightly bigger guy who can help set the edge on that side, but still get after the quarterback, still create pressure, et cetera. Kind of do the things that they couldn't get out of Keon White. But maybe the same sort of body type, little smaller than Keon White. He, when talking with reporters, mentioned that he was playing in the 260s, about 265. So that's kind of what we're looking at in that role. But here's the thing is that, if you talk to most Patriots fans, most Patriots analysts, they're going to tell you that edge is a huge need. And they're going to go on about how the Patriots need to target it first, need to go out there and get an edge, et cetera, et cetera. Look, they do need to add rotational depth in this room. And if they could add an elite star pass rusher, I mean, look, you're not going to get argument from me or anybody else, right? But Myles Garrett's not available. Max Crosby is overpriced and potentially on, not even the back nine, like the pack 2 or 3, depending on which knee doctor you listen to, apparently. So the fact is that adding that star elite all pro level pass rusher is not an option. So what you do is you go in with a rotation, a group of guys that you can get maximum value out of, guys that all bring something to the table, and collectively you get good pass rush out of those guys. Harold Landry, he's been a good pass rusher throughout his career, very, very solid. Draymond Jones, and then you go to the back, right? Elijah Ponder. Now, I talked about him last week. We talked about how Mike Smith last summer was just absolutely raving about Elijah Ponder. Now I'm going to pull up actually the precise quotes right now. This is from an article on Mass Live written by Mark Daniels. Outside linebacker Elijah Ponder. Also, the ads on this page are wild. All right. Outside linebacker Elijah Ponder has also had a strong summer. The rookie looked the part of a core special teamer at the beginning of camp. This week, he also took reps with the starting defense after a strong showing in Minnesota. On Tuesday, Patriots outside linebackers coach Mike Smith gushed about Ponder's smarts and skill set. While speaking about the Cal Poly product, Smith admitted to getting goosebumps. Watching him come out, this is the quote, watching him come out, because he was a guy that nobody was looking at. But if you look at his athletic ability, it's off the charts, Smith said. He's a big rusher. He moves great in space. Sorry, talking while I'm looking the other way probably isn't helping. He's a big, it just feels weird not wearing a hat because I always do. He's a big rusher. He moves great in space. He's not scared to go put his face right down the middle if you saw him in game. But he's got this very rare ability of picking up things quick. And look, like he's done it from day one. It's just remarkable. That is another one that has an extremely bright future. Probably one of the best undrafted free agent pickups that I've ever seen. That's Mike Smith's direct quote about Elijah Ponder, made in August. Now, Elijah Ponder, we saw him get some work this year. More and more as the season went on. And when he did get on the field, he made an impression. He made an impact. I'm again pulling up his stats for right now. He had a total of 2 fumbles recovered. That's random. 4 sacks. And let's get on down to the more advanced pressure numbers. Their pressures, 8 pressures, 4 sacks, 1 QB knockdown, 3 hurries. That was only on 1 blitz. So missed tackles, 0. And in coverage, he ended up in coverage once, got targeted, and they hit him for 12 yards, which is, look, he's basically a defensive end. I mean, he's a 260-pound defensive end. He's not going to be great in coverage. It is what it is. But Ponder was impactful in the games that he played in. Snap counts, he was out there for 215 defensive snaps. All right. Now we sit here and look at the game logs and find where those snaps were. I think we'll all see that as the games progressed, he became more and more involved. Throughout the first 7 weeks of the season, defensive snap counts were 5, 4, 13, 3, 13, 8, and 7. Okay. Single digits, 5 of those 7 games. The 2 that were outliers were 13 and 13. That was at Buffalo and at Tennessee. In the midst of a 4-game road trip there. Did he miss a game? Oh, he missed a couple games. 3 and 4, he was out. Okay. So anyway, throughout the first 9 games, he played in 7. 5 single-digit snap counts, 2 double-digit snap counts. So he only played in 7 of them. He sat out 2 games entirely. Okay. Then it started coming on. It started clicking. It started working. All right. Week 8, 14 snaps, 16 the next, 20 the next, 29 the next. So the first time he's gone over 20 snaps in a game was in week 12. Then 29, back to 10 against Buffalo again. Then 16 against Baltimore, then back up to 34 against the Jets, 23 against the Dolphins to round out the season. And then in the playoffs, just as involved, 22 in game 1, 30 in game 2 against Houston, 30 in game 2 against Houston, 26 against Denver, and 21 in the Super Bowl. All right, this is a player who worked himself solidly into the rotation. And again, we saw the benefits. We saw the production, right? I mean, right when he came back, or right when he kind of started getting into things, okay, in week 10 against Tampa. 14 snaps. That's 20% of the defensive snaps. Okay. Now, he also partook in special teams, by the way. I should mention that. Pretty steady across the board, 209 special team snaps. That's 53% of the special team snaps. So he's an important special team player, but also 24% of the defensive snaps. And that's with sitting out 2 games and only cracking single digits on snaps 5 times out of the first 7 games he did play. And again, we saw the return immediately. Okay, in Tampa, 2 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and a QB hit. Also the sack. The very next week against the Jets, another sack, 5 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, another QB hit. The very next week, no sacks, but he was involved. Tackles. 30.8 of the defensive snaps, too. And then against the Giants, remember that defensive just beat down that New England threw on the Giants? Let's not pretend it was a coincidence that Elijah Ponder was on the field for 52.7 of the defensive snaps. He had a sack, he had two tackles, and 1 QB hit. Also, a fumble recovered in that game. Then you go a couple games, no sacks, but he's still getting pressure on the quarterback. He's still involved. All right, this was another dip back when we talked about the 10 and then the 16 snaps. All right, maybe he wasn't feeling right. Maybe I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but I know that when he came back against the Jets, he played 54.8% of the defensive snaps in week 17. Sorry, game 16, week 17. And then against Miami, 41% of the snaps with a sack again, another QB hit, and another fumble recovered, this time for 18 yards. Now, you might also remember, by the way, in the Denver game, he was the one who recovered that fumble. He was the one who should have scored that touchdown. So, again, good morning, Mike. Sorry, I was on the other page. I didn't see that. So, again, what I'm telling you here is that we already have at least 3 guys that they feel good about in that edge rotation. Do we need to add to that? Absolutely. We should add to that. I would expect them to find someone in free agency, perhaps. There are still a number of free agents available. Not big name guys. But there are still a number of quality guys that are available. Or in the trade market, Jonathan Greenard out of the Minnesota Vikings is an option. He is a 6'3", 260-pound pass rusher. All right, who is available for the right price. And the right price is like a day 2 pick, maybe round 3, maybe round 4. Okay, so like day 2/day 3. All right, now we're sitting here with 2 round 4 picks, 4 round 6 picks, and then an extra 5th next year as well. Now, next year's draft picks are much more valuable. We don't really want to give away too many if we can avoid it. But if you can put together a package of day 3 picks or maybe even a round 3 pick for Jonathan Greenard, you do that. I absolutely think you do that. I mean, he is a 28-year-old pass rusher who we've seen production from in the past. All right. Despite that, now this 2025 was a down year for him. All right. 3 sacks. That's why you're getting him for a mid pick. But 2024, 12 sacks. Much more impactful in the pass rush game. 2023, 12 and a half sacks. 2022, injured, only started 4 games, only played in 8, 1.5 sacks. It was a rough season, a little bit of a lost season for him. That's fine. 2021, 8 sacks. Now, back then he was playing for Houston, right? 2020 through 2023. He moves on to Minnesota, 12 sacks there. Then the 3 sack this past year. Again, not a great year this past year. We're not going to pretend he was. It was, but this is a guy you can go out and get. Give a little bit of draft capital. Not a lot for a pass rusher of that magnitude. Potentially. I mean, if you add that to this pass rush room. Hey, how's it going, Paper Waves? Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Okay. Let me just address that real quick. So Max Ihenekor, who was it? Somebody told me they spoke with the ASU sporting department or something like that, and that he turned 22 this past October. Now they were specific about it with the October. So it led me to believe that they, like, at least they know his birthday's in October. We know that already. So maybe they're on point. I don't see like a consensus age anywhere. Excuse me. Oh, by the way, coffee stuff, right? So I figured out how to use the espresso machine, make the Americano. I know this is not Patriots related, but it is what it is. Make the Americano. This stuff, super tasty, and it's got a very cool packaging, which I'm into. And then there was this other brand of coffee. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like Three Dick Billy Goat or some shit like that I thought about getting, but I did not. I think if Lisa's watching, she'll probably be able to fill in the name. But I ended up going with this stuff. Same company. Again, very cool packaging. The Americano is the way to go, by the way. You throw a little bit of cream in that. Very, very good. Yeah, see, so I don't think at 31 it's necessary. I don't think, here's the thing. The Patriots throughout free agency, like they went in, they brought in Draymond Jones. They've got the 3-man edge rush. I think that the way that they've set themselves up is they're just going to take best player available. Now, maybe it's best player available within their needs, but then you have to go and you have to look at how the draft board falls out. And everywhere that I continue to do mock drafts over and over and over again. Now that just, I guess they don't really matter at the end of the day, right? Like, that's fine. They don't really matter. But they do give us some sort of an idea of how the draft board could fall. And over and over and over and over, when I'm doing these mock drafts, and this is, again, let's just, for the sake of argument right now, maybe Max Ihenekor is not 25. This is he's 22 and a half to 23 and a half, something in that range, which makes him draftable in the first round. That was my only criticism of him, was his age. I don't want a guy who's going to be 30 years old at the end of his rookie contract. Reasonable. But, oh God, R. Mason Thomas in the first round. No, thank you. I think that's early for Gabe Akis. I think that's Cassius Howell range, but man, it's tough to bet on those measurables on both sides of the ball. Malachi Lawrence, yes, but early. Zion Young, I do not know if he can stand up. LT Overton, that's okay. He just doesn't seem, Overton doesn't seem like he's got the type of body that we need to stand up, to be able to put pressure, that outside bend, that sort of thing. I don't know about Overton. Malachi Lawrence, definitely. At any rate, so the way the board keeps falling for me in all these mock drafts I do, and I do them on various sites, by the way. I don't want to go by any one consistent, like, consensus board or one draft board or whatever. So I'll go over to PFF every day because I refuse to pay for their $20 a month or $25 a month, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't think Overton's a fit for us. And I really don't even think Zion's a fit for us. Anyway, so when I keep going to all these different drafts, right? NFL mock draft database, PFF, PFSN, the draft professors, wherever I can go. Okay. And I try to do various mock drafts because I want to get an idea of the multiple ways that the board can fall. And the way the board continues to fall for me is scenarios where I feel like the best player available for me is a tackle at the end of round one. So I'm looking at guys like Blake Miller or someone like that. Now, I've done a number of scenarios also where I'll trade back and try to acquire multiple picks in the, multiple top 100 picks and get that, have that work. And then I'll address needs there, because where I'm looking, it's like, Malachi Lawrence is the guy that I'm targeting. He basically right around 50 for a lot of people. Okay, so little early, maybe at 31, but too late at 63. You could trade up from 63, potentially using fourth, sixth, maybe package the two together, get up to 51 ish, grab him there, or trade back from 31 if there's nobody you're in love with there. That's the other thing here is that I just don't think that the Patriots, like, they have 11 draft picks. Do they have 11 roster spots? Can you find 11 roster spots? Because I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if they've got 11 roster spots. So why make 11 draft picks? Um, I don't, that's not something that I love seeing them do. Making 11 draft picks. I'd like to see them trade up and grab certain players that address certain needs. There are multiple different draft scenarios, I guess, that can solve those things. And I think, Mike Vrabel talked about it himself throughout this offseason, where he basically said, like, where BPA meets need, that's ideal. And that is ideal. That's what we're looking at for these guys, is where does BPA meet need? All right. And I'll tell you one need that nobody's talking about too, by the way. Cornerback. Now, why? Why is nobody talking? I don't know. I do not know. Alex Austin, not like a stud cornerback or whatever, and injured at the end of the season, but still the third cornerback in this room. We saw multiple cornerbacks step in and out of the role last year. But Alex Austin's gone now. We have not replaced him. There's not been a single cornerback signing. Thank you, dude. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, Paperwaves. Really appreciate it. Drive safe out there. I don't know where you live, but it's very rainy and windy and gross here. Anyway, Alex Austin left, not replaced, not a single cornerback signed in this process yet that I'm aware of. I unless there's something new that has been reported or something that I missed, maybe no cornerbacks. So where are you getting that third cornerback? Because the last I checked, the Patriots, 2 of their 3 losses in the regular season last year came in games when Christian Gonzalez was down. And Carlton Davis playing 17 games in a season, that's a minor miracle nobody appreciates enough. Okay, Carlton Davis is known for missing a lot of time. I'd pull up his exact stats here. Let's see. Let's see how many full seasons Carlton Davis has played in his career. At age 22 in Tampa, he spent the first 6 years in Tampa, 1 year in Detroit, 1 year here. You want to guess how many full seasons he's played before I come at you with it? Because I'll tell you exactly how many it is. 1, just last year. That's it. Now, he hasn't missed, half the season every single year. He hasn't missed entire years or any of that. But let's go throughout his 8-year career. 2018, 12 games started, 13 games played. 2019, 14 games started, 14 games available. 2020, again, 14 and 14. 21, 10 and 10. 22, 13 and 13. They all match down, by the way, so I'm not going to say the number twice. 23, 12, 24, 13, 25, 17. It's the only season his entire 8-year career that he's played all the games. So last year, star cornerback went down to injury early in the season. 2 of those 3 losses came during that. Second option cornerback manages to play an entire season for the first year of his career. We cannot go into the next season without a reliable backup for these guys. And yet we don't have that. So this is a need that I'm surprised nobody's really talking about right now. Because to me, that's a pretty strong need. I'm sorry for that. My cat is begging for my attention. He is right here. You want to say hi? Mwah. All right, dude. Go grab your pocket. Um, sorry. Every now and then, Loki likes to make an appearance. So, at any rate, yeah, there he is. What was that? Now you're here. What was the coffee? The Billy Goat coffee. I was talking about that a minute ago, but I couldn't remember what it was called. It was like three nut Billy Goat or some shit like that. It was different. Um, at any rate, let's talk about where they might find that edge rotational help. Okay. Because, like I said, there are a number of players that are still available in free agency. All right. Now, sort of by market value. One of the guys that I particularly like for this team, and I'm not sure if they think he's an ideal fit or what the deal is, but AJ Epinesa. All right. I was looking at his all of his stuff, all of his stats and combine stuff and whatnot yesterday. Okay, now he's 6'6", 260. All right, he's not gonna give you double-digit sacks. All right, he's never gone over 6.5 sacks in his 5-year career, 6-year career. Sorry. Initially drafted by Buffalo, by the way, in the second round of the 2020 draft. All right, so he played out 4 years there, got an extension, 2 more years. Now he's a free agent. He has been a solid presence in that room. All right. 14, 14, 15, 15, 17, 16 games in those 6 years. So he hasn't missed a lot of games. And he's just been a steady contributor. All right. Gets after the quarterback a little bit, gets some pressure on the quarterback. Not a high missed tackle number, not great, 10.6%. That's not great, but it's not like terrible either. All right. Oh hell, this guy even scored an interception touchdown at one point in time. Where was that? When was this? Touchdowns, interception. 2023. He scored an interception touchdown. Good for him. At any rate, solid player out there on the market right now. Projected value from Spotrac is a $6.5 million contract. I don't know if he's going to get that, but that's what they say. You've got guys also names out there, names that people know: Joey Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Cameron Jordan. I've heard talk of. Anthony Jennings still out there. I'm not sure. Maybe they could bring him back on a cheaper contract. They were just trying to save money. I have no idea. Von Miller, Jadeveon Clowney, guys like that. Hassan Reddick. I think he retired earlier. Derek Barnett, Kyle Van Noy is old. There are a few names out there that you could potentially get after. Oh, this page is killing me. That you could potentially get after to add to this edge rush run. 3 Peckered Billy Goat by Ravens Brew. That's the coffee that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. Oh, I know. I showed it. I've got it here. Boom. Right there with the Kraken. I don't know if that's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be a Kraken. I don't know. It's pretty sweet though. I like it. I'm trying it later. I forgot I had it. I ended up going with a skull crushing fire department coffee though. These guys make, it's solid coffee, very nifty bags. I dig it. I'm into supporting the coffee. Not sponsored yet. Fire department company coffee. Fire department coffee. Reach out. Have your people talk to my people. We'll make things happen. At any rate, let's go over some of these mock draft scenarios that I talk about. Okay. I'm going to pull up a page here and we'll just go ahead and do one right now. I'm going to pull up profootballnetwork.com. We're going to drop my camera because it works like shit when we're doing these things, and we haven't done one on this site yet. All right. We're loading. It's taking a moment. Let's see. Why don't we run through 4 rounds? We're going to do it at normal speed. Here we go. Let's share out my screen. I need to pull this down. Share screen. Here we go. Boom. All right. So let's go through some of these mock draft scenarios live right now and see how they play out. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up. It doesn't like me. There are a lot of ads on PFSN, and NFL mock draft database is way worse. Draft Professors, solid ads, but or solid in terms of ads, like almost no ads. But the trade thing is just I can't deal with it. All right. We're gonna go. I put this at normal speed so we could watch this develop and potentially drop in and make a trade if we felt that was necessary. All right. Pause it right here. Now, the Vikings, in my experience, are about to select Dylan Thieneman. This is one of my favorite picks of the draft, Dylan Thieneman. This is a guy who I would break, need for, that I would simply attack BPA and get Dylan Thieneman. The question is, do you trade up for him or just let him fall to you if he does? I don't think he will, but I just thought it was worth mentioning and pausing at this point right here. This is a very popular pick for the Vikings, and I see he's not gone yet. But if you see here, you trade up into this range, there are potentially guys. I mean, Sadiq falls in this particular example. Thieneman's still here. Falk, Woods, Yawane. Like, that's a list of dudes. Blake Miller is a guy I really like for this team. Caden McDonald is a guy you could argue this team needs on that defensive line, a run-stopping guy to step into that role that Kyrie's Tonga vacated. And again, we haven't really filled yet. What I'm going to do here is just hit resume. There goes Thieneman, like I thought. All right. Now, the Bills trade up for Keldrick Falk in this particular example. All right. Now, this presents another interesting scenario, right? Because we have all these picks, 31, 63, 95, 125, 131, and so forth. Now, if I were to pull up can we trade yeah, we can. We can trade the other picks. All right. So 31 to 22. Now, do the Chargers trade out of this pick? Probably not, because they need Yawane probably more than anybody in this draft. But point is you can trade up into this range and get guys. Peter Wood's still on the board. That's wild. Kenyon Sadiq still on the board at 21. Okay. Now let's see what does it take to get there? Just to explore this here. 22. They're not happy with that. We throw in 125. Not yet. We throw in 191. No, that doesn't get them there. Jesus, they want everything. All right, so it's a little much to get up there anyway. That's going to cost us like 4 or 5 players. Okay. That's at least what this simulator seems to think. All right, so let's sit on the board. And by the way, let's scan down this board real quick. TJ Parker at 34, according to PFSN. I don't know if that's realistic, but here we are. Max Ihenacor, 35, right? Right in the range. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, if that's a guy that we're interested in, 37. J-Rod, 40. Malachi Lawrence, 42. Lee Hunter, 43. Denzel Boston, 45. I don't know how realistic this board is, to be honest. But Zion Young, Tre'Dan Stukes, Emmanuel Pregnon. These are all guys that I've had interest in for the Patriots. Cassius Howe, maybe not in the first round for some of these guys. Caleb Banks falling to 55 after news of his broken foot. Continued foot problems for that guy. It's such a shame. Such a talent. Um, but point being is there are a lot of guys in that range that we could be interested in. So let's continue on. And we're just going to see who falls, right? Ioane goes there. Blake Miller going. Man, I've done so many mocks on this simulator, and Blake Miller is frequently off the board when we pick, and it drives me crazy. All right. This is exactly the sort of pick that I talk about. Oh, I don't like that we're throwing in the 95, but we get a second round back from Baltimore next year and that sort of offer. I don't think that would happen, but if it did, that's a great trade right there. Move back 14 spots. You move up 15 on the other side and pick up a second round in a valuable draft class next year. Great trade. Easy trade. This one, move back 25 spots. You move up 90 spots and you pick up a second round next year. Not in love with that. This one, slide back 7 spots and you pick up a second round next year. Not a realistic trade, but I'd jump on it if they wanted it. I wonder they'd probably be moving up for one of these offensive linemen, Ihanake or Chase Santos, someone like that. Look, again, I don't think you need to force this. Okay. Now, if TJ Parker happens to be sitting there, great. Jump on it and grab him if that's your guy. All right. So let's say we do. Let's say we address the edge position in the first round. All right. We grab TJ Parker. Now, he had a quiet season this year. There are questions about how much he really loves football, right? How much he, how dedicated and how into it he is, if you will. We see Malachi Lawrence go 45, Zion Young 47, Cassius Howell at 50. That's about the right range for Howell, too. 52 for Denzel Boston. That's a guy we're really interested in. At least here on this channel. Anyway, I don't know about the Patriots themselves, but I am. 2 trade offers here, slide back 15 spots, pick up 113. But look, I already don't think we're going to be able to use the 11 picks we have. So I'm not interested in picking up new picks. Now, Kamari Ramsey, this is a guy they've already met with and they like. Jacoby Lane, this is a position they need. On Twitter, at one point in a conversation Nick Cattles and I were having, and said he does not think Jacoby Lane is a Vrabel guy. So maybe we X him out. I recently heard this suggestion. What about a running back? What about Mike Washington Jr. there? Not the worst idea I've ever heard. And these guys have been building up their run game this offseason, right? I mean, they sign a blocking tight end. They sign a blocking fullback, like one of the better fullbacks in the league. They signed the best guard on the market. Okay, they are clearly addressing their issues in the run game and the short yardage game, that sort of thing, right? But let's talk about the needs, all right? Let's talk about the wide receiver spot. Ted Hurst, small school guy. I know a lot of people love him, and I really like his physical skills. I just have big questions about jumping. It's like jumping up a couple levels. It's like getting drafted from middle school, or like getting signed straight from middle school to D1. You're jumping a couple levels, and I don't know. He already, like, if you saw, I saw the stat lines from the 2 games. I was looking at film and stuff yesterday, and if you log, so I was trying to decide like what are the best games to watch and that sort of thing when I was talking about watching his film. And I'm looking at his games and like, man, he had a couple big games, right? 165 yards, 172 yards. Those are big games. Don't get me wrong, right? But against Murray State, the Murray State Racers, and against Coastal Carolina. All right, those are the 2 big games he had. 10 receptions, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Murray State game, 10, 165, and 1 for the Coastal Carolina game. Those are the 2 big games he has. He did have, now they don't play in the toughest conference, but they did play 2 games against ranked opponents. Let's take a look at his stat lines in those games. 1 reception for 6 yards against Ole Miss. Now, it was week 1. Maybe it was just a wonky, weird week. He was getting settled in. I mean, he came in the next week against Memphis and 7 for 97, and then the Murray State game. And then came the Vanderbilt game. They were ranked 20th at the time. That was Saturday, September 20th this past year. 7 receptions, 71 yards. Not a bad game, but not dominant, right? not like jump into the NFL and dominate right now. Met with Parker 4 times. Yeah. No, uh Parker's definitely a guy that I could see. Again, it's not about the physical skills. It's about if you sit down and you talk with him and you feel like he's a dude who loves football and wants to be a part of this team, then you go grab him, right? It's a solid pick in the first round. I just don't think you have to force it. Board's fallen. I think I'd go ahead and get Demetrius Crownover. Right tackle of the future. You're probably going to get one more year out of Moses. And then you're going to need to figure out where you're going to go with that right tackle position. I think Crownover is an excellent choice. He's a big-bodied guy who they could train up. Oh, Kamari Ramsey. Maybe that's the way we should have gone. Jude Bowery, that's a guy I'm interested in. He just went 85th. You start to see some of these edges. Derek Moore, guys like that come off the board there. Saw Denai Dennis Sutton, Josiah Trotter, not an edge, but linebackers. Katron Allen's a guy I'm interested in the run game. Jonah Coleman went the pick right before us. So this is the range you start looking at. What else do we need to fill? Okay. Now, we got the edge. We got the right tackle. We need a wide receiver. Is there a guy here? Bryce Lance? Again, I don't know. He's jumping huge levels of competition, right? Out of the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl, rather. That shades me out about him a lot. All right. So you start going through these positions, and where do we need a guy? Well, they like Cage Casey. They met with Cage Casey. Brian Parker, I believe they met with him also at the Shrine Bowl. Defensively, now we might have screwed this already because we probably should have taken Kamari Ramsey in that last pick. This is the range that I like seeing some of these cornerbacks. Okay. I think you can get production out of some of these guys. I mean, Davison Igbinosun, you have heard Matt Chabot come on this channel twice now and talk about Davison Igbinosun and how he is maybe the most underrated player in this draft. Malik Muhammad, excellent cornerback option. Chandler Rivers, very small. Well, we couldn't take him. He would be a Marcus Jones type of guy. Charlie Demings blew up the combine. Ridiculous relative athletic score. Devin Moore, talented cornerback, probably going to play some safety out of Florida. Ephesians Prysock, big, long, ripped, like rocked up cornerback guy. All right. Dalen Everett, another guy, steps up in big games. We've talked about him here. All right. Some of these guys in that range, Damani Jackson, I think even. He's a little later, but so some of these guys in this range, let's say we go with a cornerback here. Let's see what round 4 brings us. Can we address wide receiver there? Can we bring in an inside offensive lineman? Can we bring in a third safety? Let's see. Pick 125 is coming up, and then we have 131 as well. Kyle Lewis, I love for us too. 100%. All right, here we are at 125. Remember, Parker, Crownover, Igbinosun, first 3 picks, right? Interior offensive line. Oh, Malachi Fields right there. I'm going to grab him. I'm going to go Malachi Fields right there. That's a guy who ran himself out of day 2, according to this. All right, now let's look here. Harold Perkins Jr., interesting prospect. Caleb Elerms, or linebacker, very interesting prospect for us. Cornerback, we already grabbed one. Safety, Jalen Husky's a guy we've talked about here a little bit. Michael Taffy, we haven't talked about enough. VJ Payne, he got some talk last week from one of the guests. I forget exactly who liked him. Was it Pete Collins, maybe? Someone was on here last week and really liked VJ Payne. So that's an interesting prospect to talk about. And where did Kyle Lewis go? Did you see? Yeah, he did. He went off the board 113. So anyway, here I'm going to go Caleb Elam's or there. I do like Torian York too, linebacker. I mean, he's a little guy, but I was watching the Arkansas game this past weekend, and I'll tell you what, man, I saw him come flying in and put a guard down, just pancake the guard, like reverse of roles, and I was like, who was that? And had to double check the number because I know Torian York was supposed to be a smaller guy, man, but he packs a punch. Okay. So anyway, this was the final haul. All right. TJ Parker, Crownover, Igbenos, Fields, and Elam Zor. All right. That's with the 4-round draft. I haven't done a daily one in a couple days. All right. Do 3 rounds here. I can't do any other editing because, as I said, I do not like paying PFF. I just don't like this mock draft simulator that much, and certainly not enough for like $25 a month. Back when it was $10 a month, I paid for it. $25 a month, no thanks. All right, we're gonna start this up. All right, back sitting here on the board again. We see TJ Parker there again. We're gonna go a different route this time. We're not gonna force things. We're gonna see what develops. Okay, in this particular simulator, again, I cannot trade because I do not have the premium. So I'm going to go with Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston is the wide receiver that this team needs. I think you need a big-bodied X receiver. This guy loves to run block. He's useful in special teams. He would be an ideal fit on this roster, in my opinion. Now, sit here. Malachi Lawrence off the board, sadly. So where does that leave us in the edge rusher department? Let's take a look. Derek Moore, DDS. That's a guy they've shown interest in, DDS. Let's look at the safeties. Kamari Ramsey up at 82. All right. Romello Height. He's another guy they've showed interest in. Now, Romello Height, different concerns, different stuff, I guess, because he's 27. Somebody said they thought he was going to be, let's see, he's not 24. Is he? Maybe. All right. Somebody said they thought he was 26. 24. I have a birth date of August 13th, 2001. So he will be 25 in a month. So a little bit of an older prospect, 6th year senior, struggled. He went to like 4 different schools, I believe it was. Just couldn't really find his fit. Now, when he did, it was opposite David Bailey. And a lot of people will tell you David Bailey used a lot of David Bailey type of cleanup work. So, look, there's a lot of edge rush options right here. Our next pick is at 94, I believe. 95. And again, we cannot trade here. So I'm coming down to Kamari Ramsey, DDS, Romello Height, or Kieran Crawford is another guy that I've seen them meet with, or I've seen that they met with. Anthony Lucas is a guy I'm a little bit interested in. Mason Rager later, maybe. Let's see. Any votes from the chat? Who do we take here in the second round? Anybody? Keep an eye on the chat for about 60 seconds. All right. We're going to. Oh, I'm not sharing anymore. Whoops. That explains that. I changed the page and now it wasn't sharing it anymore. Explained why it was running so much better too. All right, there we go. Back on the clock. We had made the first pick, Denzel Boston. This is the second pick. Oh, it's not scrolling up at all. All right, there's the first pick, Denzel Boston. This is the second pick. Now, do we address edge here? Do we take BPA? What do we do? BPA, according to these guys, is wide receiver or edge. Well, we've already taken the wide receiver. Let's go ahead and take DDS. That's the guy they've met with, they've talked to, they like. And let's see how this third round. Now, Kevin Byard, Bryce Lance still there. Kevin Byard, excellent signing, right? 32 years old, maybe 33 soon. Let's go ahead and take Zakee Wheatley here. We'll take a look at the draft haul in a moment. I've earned one new award. It's because I don't sign in. I earn one new award every time I do my daily draft. It's very exciting. Oh, there we go. Grading the draft, stay in your seat. A minus, C. That's what it is. Can't please them all. Look, point being is that there are multiple different ways that these drafts play out. Okay, and you don't necessarily have to force a position. If you end up going with the offensive tackle in round one, whether it's Iheenekor, whether it's Blake Miller, if Monroe Freeling somehow falls that far, elite tackles are premium assets. They're the hardest position to find outside the draft. Okay, they simply don't hit free agency. People don't trade them. And the offensive line players tend to be more loyal when it comes to re-signing than any other position groups. So, I mean, I think that, if a top offensive tackle is sitting there, the Patriots run that card to the podium. Even if the line isn't terrible right now, even if it's not a glaring need right now, because the roster was built so there are no glaring needs. Now, in round two, the edge value, it starts popping a little bit. All right. Now, the pass rush depth here we're still thin. Don't get me wrong. We are still thin. But teams, they rotate edge rushers a lot, right? And we're going to play the same way. We have a group that's 4 or 5 deep. That's great. That's what we need. All right. We're in place of having, a star stud pass rusher. We have a solid group of rotational edge rushers. Again, we've got 3 already that we feel great about. Now, does Braden Swinson develop into anything? Remains to be seen. But if you add one more, and maybe you can go pursue Jonathan Greenard. Point being is that I think that round 2 is where you find the athletic edge guys that just need development. Guys like Malachi Lawrence. Now, round 3, sweet spot for receivers. All right, this is a deep receiver class. It's got a lot of different options. Whether you like Jacoby Lane, whether you like Malachi Fields, Bryce Lance, Ted Hurst, you reach even a little deeper into Caleb Douglas. There's a big 6'4" guy who put up good numbers at the combine. All right, they already added Romeo Doubs, and they have a lot of confidence in Kyle Williams. There's really no need to force a wide receiver early, or at all for that matter. Hell, I think if you take a guy like Caleb Douglas on day 3 and work him into the system behind Mac Hollins for a year, maybe he could become something. If the Patriots are patient, the wide receiver value could be really strong in the third round and continuing on into day 3, early day 3. Now, round 4, I think that's where you target the corner and the interior offensive line. It's where depth positions get addressed. All right. At corner, we've talked about the injuries. 2 of the Patriots' 3 losses came when Christian Gonzalez was sidelined. Carlton Davis has played 1 full season in his 8-year career. Injuries happen. We need a third corner. Interior offensive line, you always need depth. All right. Jared Wilson at center. Ben Brown's the only backup. And Elijah Vera Tucker has an extensive injury history. If AVT or Jared Wilson get hurt, and Wilson we saw a couple times nicked up, then Ben Brown's immediately starting, and who's backing up? You need depth. And round 4 range in this draft class is an excellent spot to do that. We've gone through a number of the options in our earlier episodes, in other episodes, in draft preview episodes. We've gone over a number of the options, right? Guys like Jaden Roberts out of Alabama. Guys like actually a guy I was watching the other day out of Arkansas, Fernando Carmona. All right, that's a stout-bodied guy who just jumped off the tape that it was like obvious that this guy is going to be an NFL player. Keelan Rutledge, Senior Bowl standout, okay? Cage Casey, guy they've already met with. They liked him. Jalen Farmer. Talked about him with Clint Goss, right? He hit over 17 miles an hour on the field at the Senior Bowl. Fastest guard measured on the field. Billy Shrouth, Notre Dame. Jeremiah Wright, Auburn. Armaj Reed Adams, Texas A&M. These are all guys that should be available in that 4th round range. You build up the depth. All right. Listen, that's going to do it for the day. I've got a couple things that I need to get done today, and I'm going to start preparing for them now. We've got a full schedule this week. Okay. Tomorrow morning, Anthony Russo will join me. We'll be here live at 9 to 10. Wednesday morning, Peter Quinn will come back. He's going to join me again live at 9. I should be recording an episode with Jeremy Green later on that day. That will be released Thursday at 9. And then Friday, I have another guest, a guy, Accidental Zen is his name on my Twitter. I, for the life of me, can't remember his real name. Yeah, we will talk soon, man. Thank you for showing up, Paperwaves. Appreciate it. Have a great day, man. But we've got a full slate this week. I've got folks scheduled into next week as well. And actually next week, I have an episode I'm really excited about because we have a doctor coming on, and we're going to talk to him about some of these medical concerns with some of these draft prospects. Guys like Jennings Dunker, who's a guy I'm interested in. I was unaware of, extensive medical concerns with him. Guys like Caleb Banks, who, again, being projected now deep into the 2nd round, but a great talent. And, that's what you got to do is you got to talk to MDs. You got to talk to doctors. You got to talk to people who know about these things, right? The most important thing to know in life is what you do not know. And I am not a doctor. I do not play one on TV. I don't even play one on Twitter. But what I do is I go find them and I bring them here and I ask them about the things that you and I need to know about this upcoming draft class. And that's how we find things out. All right. So listen, I would like to thank everybody for stopping by today. we sorry. Yeah, no, thank everybody for stopping by today. I am working on good shows for the rest of the week, bringing in some good guests, getting some good things lined up. I am still incredibly happy that we were able to reach 50 episodes last, or 50 subscribers last week. That was incredibly exciting, and I thank you guys so much. I know so many of you guys share these things and, share the shows, ask people for likes and subscribes and so forth. And look, we got there together as a group. Okay, we got to 50. We're actually up to 51 last I checked. Um, and we're going to be pushing. We're going to try and hit 100 by the draft. That gives us 6 weeks to double the total. It took about 10 weeks to build. Let's see if we can do it. Guys, tune in tomorrow. We're going to have a great episode. Anthony and I are going to come on here. And you know what? I think what we're going to do for the rest of this week, I've been thinking about it throughout the episode, is we're going to break down. I'm going to list out Patriots needs, and we're going to break down the available options in the draft. All right. So off the top of my head, edge, wide receiver, offensive tackle, safety, linebacker, cornerback, too. So we'll break down some of the options that the Patriots might be seeing in each round. All right. At 31, at 63, at 95, and then at 125 and 131. And we'll talk about some of those guys, some new guys, some new names that we haven't heard yet on this channel. Because I want everybody to, I want us all to know all the guys. I want us all to be familiar with these names when they get picked. After the draft happens and they say, hey, you run into a friend and they say, hey, you hear anything about those new Patriots? And you say, hell yeah, I did. I know a lot about Ephesians Prasak. I know a lot about Malachi Lawrence. Let me tell you. All right. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. Be there or be square. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, leave comments telling us how much you love us, how much you hate us, whatever it is. I respond to all of them. All right. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next time.